Okay, so let's talk about putting on your socks when dealing with sciatica and low back pain, especially if you are flexion intolerant, which rounding of the back will actually make your pain worse or bring on the pain. There are a couple different methods that you can do. I'm going to start off with the most simple, minimizing the opportunities for instability and minimizing the opportunities for pain. It's also going to be a little bit on the slower side, and it's going to be using a chair or a step. Now, depending on how flexible your hips are, it is actually going to be determining the height of the surface that you're going to be sitting on. And oftentimes, if you are in fact flexion intolerant, you're going to be mostly limited in hip flexion. So ideally, when you are doing this, you're going to be wanting to sit into a chair that is going to be relatively high so that your hips aren't below the level of your knees, because you're limited in hip flexion, and this might actually be very, very tough for you to settle into. So you get into a chair, maybe a little bit higher, maybe at about the level of the knee. And from here, what you're going to do, instead of just letting yourself rock back onto your butt muscles and see how my low back rounds, this is going to be a painful position for you to be in. So what you're going to do is you're going to rock onto your sit bones, and then from here, you can hinge forward, and then you can slide the sock right on top of your foot, and then from here, get that onto your foot. Now, the idea is that you're hinging right here at the crease of the hip. If you look at me from the side, the angle of my back does not change throughout this position. And a way that you can actually focus on that hinge is actually by having your belly button rock forward as you step on through. Okay, so it's step on through. You don't have to lift your foot up, pick your toe, slide the sock onto your foot. And then same deal, you can go ahead and slip it back off. The next option, if you do have the flexibility, is to actually take that leg and cross it on over. Now, if you bend this bottom leg a little bit more, that leg is going to go up pretty high. And again, if you are in fact limited in hip flexion, this position might be a little bit more challenging. So you're going to let that bottom leg be a little less bent. And when you do this, the knee is going to be a little less bent. Still, same deal. Get your belly button to your thigh. You can then reach on over and put the sock on. As you can see, when I do this position, if I lean forward, I'm actually keeping my back nice and flat as I am actually putting my sock on, taking my sock off. The next option that you can do is something that you can do in standing. It's going to require a little bit more balance, but it might be helpful for the folks who don't necessarily have as much range in your hips. And that's going to be simply standing on up. And you are going to be putting your foot, say, on a step. And then from here, same deal, you're going to be hinging by sticking your butt back, using your hip as the axis of rotation, sliding that through, and then letting yourself get back up. As you're doing this, you're emphasizing a stretch in your hamstring, maybe a stretch in your hip flexor. If you feel that stretch, that means that you are in the right position, moving at the level of your hip versus your back. And then the third option is actually going to be doing it in freestanding. This is going to require a little bit more stability, but you are going to take your abs, you're going to go very, very tight. You're going to lift your leg, but again, you're going to be using your hip by pushing your butt back. And then from here, that's when you can go ahead and put that sock on. This requires a little bit more range of motion and stability. So if you are dealing with issues when it comes to putting your socks on, this is usually the last variation that you would attempt.